Okay, guys. All right, finally uh we're here again.
Okay.
Yes, and we are re or re-recording our program because last time it was a problem with sound, and we believe that this time we fix it, and it's going to be much better than it was. And I know, and I saw on a YouTube already pretty much good response for views. It means you're interested in this topic. You're looking for the answers probably, or the way how to resolve this issue in our society. But the thing we are talking about, it's racism,
Hmm.
and it's a huge issue for American society, first of all. And today we're going to talk about the history of that, about some small details, and how it's influenced personally on us, and of course on us as a society, because we all live in our country, no matter white, black, Asian, Spanish, wherever we are, no matter what color of our skin is. But we live together, and we're supposed to live respectfully. We would like to live to love each other,
Hmm.
to be responsible for each other. And first of all, I would like to represent our guest today. Is a Terrell Castle, the good friend of mine. And first question to you, Terrell: Is racism really, uh, like exist?
Uh, yeah, it does. It does exist. It's probably always existed. Um, but I don't think it's a major problem in the country for Black Americans now. Um, Everyone's experiences are different, especially if you're looking at females and males, but for the most part, the problems that we have in Black America, um, racism is probably on the bottom of the list. That's where I would put it, on the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Um, when you think about racism, people just not liking you because of your certain color, and yeah, there were problems, definitely in the past. I don't know how much you know about Black American past, but slavery was definitely a problem. Uh, we endured years of that, and then after the emancipation, we had Jim Crow laws and all these other things that went on. Um, but we overcame all of that. You can't fix a person's heart; only God can. So if you don't like somebody just because of the color of their skin, well, then yeah, there's people out there that are like that. For the vast majority of people, I would say no, they're not even thinking about you. They are worried about their families. They're same as you. They're trying to finish school, whatever it is that they're trying to do, and they really aren't thinking about, let me go get a black person or something like that. Um, and definitely, the people who would present this as some horrible problem that needs to be solved by those in power, um, you'd have to ask yourself, what can't you do in this country just because you are black and for no other reason? And I've yet to hear anybody who's on that racism bandwagon. I have yet to hear any of them give me an answer. You know, um, I think racism is a battle cry used by people in power in order to get more power, and um, and to disrupt society, and to make people hate each other, and to make people fight, so that it distracts us from our real enemy. And I think the real enemy of Black Americans and all Americans is people who would want to steal freedom, people who would want to grab power, people who want to bring in communism and socialism and enrich themselves, basically keeping themselves at the top. And that's who the real enemy is. And that's a way bigger problem than racism. Because, or maybe, uh, your particular situation, whatever it may be, but that's temporary. And the vast majority of us, we don't deal with that on a daily basis. But the powers that be who are trying to pit us at each other, what they're doing to us, the theft of freedoms and all these other things that they're doing, that's permanent. And if you don't know that that's what's happening to you, you could really buy into it. You could really buy into it. So.
I got it. Um, I believe that we can say this way that uh, if we're looking at our society just as Americans, not
Mm-hmm.
divide ourselves to Russian
Mm-hmm.
Americans, Jewish Americans, or Black Americans, or Spanish Americans. It's
Mm-hmm.
reduce the problem to divide ourselves by racism, especially. Do you agree with
Right.
that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but that is that. I mean, you've heard of divide and conquer, right? Even in the schools, everybody. My kids had an exercise of this. They were told, what's your identity? You know, um, and it's not about bringing people together. It's about separating people into groups. And when you separate people into groups, they can't work together.
Absolutely.
They get offended. They covetousness, huge problem. Oh, I don't have that and I want it. One of the 10th commandment, right? I think it is. The root of, I think, a lot of problems is covetous. Looking at somebody and wanting what they have, believing that you should somehow have it, just because you fit into a certain group. And God doesn't do things that way.
Right.
He, you know, you get into heaven based upon your faith and your merit, your rewards are based upon what you've done. There is no such thing as the black part of heaven, the Jewish part of heaven, the black, the Ukrainian part of heaven. There's no such thing as that.
Right.
So if we're as especially as Christians, if we're looking at that, then there really isn't any room for any identity other than what God gives you. I tell my children, your identity is child of the living God. That is your identity. Beyond that, you're an American. They don't want to hear that. They want you to put yourself into this little cube. And the problem with being put into this little cube is um, all the expectations or non-expectations of that cube um, gets put onto you, um, and that is very limiting. God didn't create us to be in these boxes. That's not how we were created. I am not supposed to look at you and see a white Ukrainian immigrant. I think that offends God. I am supposed to look at you and see you as one of God's creatures, um, worthy of at least a minimal amount of respect until you do something to not deserve it.
Right.
Um, and you're supposed to see me the same way. Now, a lot of people, from different countries, maybe they might be curious about people of different races or whatever. And the solution to that is to just go talk to them. Um, uh, don't don't be afraid of that. Go talk to people. And I think that if we all were to wake up and see how we're being played, not just Black Americans, we're first. We're the more easily identifiable. We stand out more, whatever. So we're gonna, the powers that be, they're gonna take this group here, us, and we're gonna get us all riled up and all emotional about stuff that happened in the past but didn't happen to us. Um, and we're going to be angry about that, and we're going to stay angry about that. And you're not even from this country, but yet, I'm supposed to be angry at you. you know uh, think about
Right.
that.
Right.
Does that really make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Right.
And when we're focused on this, and I go online sometimes, and I read these responses, especially when you have these issues regarding Black Lives Matter or whatever, and I read the comments, and you can always tell who wrote them, whether the person's black or white, and there's a lot of anger um, uh, with white people, um, a lot of it. And so I'll go on and I'll say, look, your anger is misplaced. You are basically giving the powers that be, the people who are creating this narrative that, we aren't supposed to get along, that there's a problem, that there's institutional racism, that, you have a thought, your thought life. Now they're telling you what you think, and this is how you think, and therefore you're guilty of this and that. No, the proper solution isn't to get angry at Black people who are also being played.
Hmm.
The proper reaction is to say, you know what, I'm being played, you're being played, and I'm not going to let it happen.
Yes.
I am going to meet you and love you or not like you based upon
Right.
your merits, based upon your merits, and that's all I'm going to do. That's all I'm going to do. And Black people who are awake, not woke, need to do the same thing. Recognize that, there have been struggles in the past, and yeah, some, there's people who have problems here and there, but the vast majority of our problems are not due to racism. They're just not. They're just not.
Gotcha.
Hmm. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely. The other thing is, if we're talking about the history of the racism, right? There is many issues with this as well, because there's many different numbers, and one people they try to bring one number to the tables, but the history is all about exact numbers. We can't talk just about numbers. We we're talking about the exact number. It's a history. I mean, of course you can change it if you want to, but is it going to be the real history? There's a question. Um,
Mm.
like, um, what could you bring, for the history of the racism in USA to say, like, for example, uh, some of the people saying like, oh, it was like 500 years, and like, uh, that's why we're supposed to next 500 years without work, and like the country is supposed to pay us for that, this and that. What numbers you would like to bring to the table to put history in a like exact chronology?
Well, um, black people, well, there were black people already here before the first Africans who were enslaved. But slavery lasted for African Americans for 400 years in in this country, um, and then it was abolished by Lincoln in 1864, I believe. And from that moment on, I mean, you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with things. So the whole cause of the Civil War. I mean, people say it was fought over slavery and things like that, but that wasn't necessarily the catalyst. They were more economic. Um, but the backdrop of all of that is we ended up getting our freedom. And before Jim Crow, we were moving along, making strides. Obviously, there was still racism because that was real racism, and you're dealing with people who lost something. Um, Mainly white people who were not happy about that. And of course, we're not talking about all white people because most white people obviously were not slave owners. The top people were slave owners. Everybody else was just trying to get through, through the day, trying to live life, kind of like we're doing now.
Right.
Um, there, the real problem of the institutional racism was during the Jim Crow years, where black people, we were absolutely second class citizens. Couldn't people know about it. Couldn't ride buses, couldn't, or had to sit in the back, couldn't, separate facilities, can't use the bathroom. I mean, on and on and on, that we had to deal with. One thing that I look at that history um, as being as horrible as it was. One thing that I really liked was how we pulled together and helped our own selves. We helped our own selves. You needed to travel. There were houses that would take you in there. I mean, and we were doing it ourselves, and I kind of like that. Um, and I don't know. I think that if we had been allowed, or if we had just kept that going, we would have our own, more of our own industries now. I'm not saying that it was good, and there's probably more people out there who study this more than I do. But the idea of us being able to do it ourselves, I kind of like that. Um, I get angry when I hear people saying, um, we need to be allowed to sit at the table. We need to sit at the table. Black people, and they're demanding to sit at the table. And one, I feel as though we should be creating our own tables, especially since we've been here for so long, and this is our home. We should have more of our own tables at this point in every area of life.
Okay.
Um, and it bothers me that we don't. Um, a lot of people say that the effects of slavery, and I don't know. I mean, how long is this going to go on? How long are we going to blame everything on slavery when nobody here, nobody alive now has ever been a slave? I'm not talking about human trafficking; that's a different
Right.
thing.
Right.
But I'm talking about no one here has been a slave, and no one has owned a slave in the United States.
Right.
So if something is going on with your life, um, we have to, as a people, sit down, look in the mirror, and say, what decisions put me here. Because if it was really just racism straight across the board for all of us, then none of us should be successful. None of us should have anything. We should just be, just living in the ghetto, whatever. No opportunity, no home ownership, and that's just not true. That's just not true. Um, I ask people, what can't you do in this country just because you're black?
Right.
They're not used to questions like that, and you get the deer in the headlights response. They're like, because the answer is nothing. But they don't want to say that.
Hmm.
Because if you actually admit that there is nothing in this country I can't do just because I'm black, all of a sudden, it's not racism anymore.
Hey,
It's you.
hey, Terrell, may I
Mhm.
stop you right here? Because when I'm preparing for the program and reading the Wikipedia, it's kind of like official information about something, right? Like
Mhm.
somebody did some kind of research and would like to bring the people the real, information, real situation, and numbers and everything. Uh, at the bottom of the topic of racism, there is a statistics about like to compare what white people have and what black people have, and they saying that result of the racism, I don't know, somehow, but anyway, like
Mhm.
uh, white people have more opportunities, they live in better houses, they have more salary, like when you're white you have some kind of privilege. And when I wrote everything I was like, 19 years in the United States, I observed this country, and try to assimilate myself, with a
Mhm.
new country, with a new culture,
Right.
surrounding, and I never saw that. I just more agree with you. It's all about opportunity. It's all about what people just do. And I know lots of great, wealthy black people. They never say that America is not enough for them and they need
No.
somebody to pay them off for something, right?
Well, what you have to do is compare apples and apples, not apples and oranges. For instance, if you take two people, white and black, and they get on the same path, they're most of the time they're going to end up in the same area, meaning they can live in the same house, they can have, they can live in the same neighborhood, they can drive the same car, they can send their, if you look at the people who are on the same path. Well, what we have to do is, if things are lower, let's say, uh, um, lower income, blah blah blah, whatever, you have to ask yourself, what decisions are being made that put us there? Um, because if you're saying, oh well, it's racism, then there shouldn't be any successful people, black people at all. There just shouldn't be, if it's just racism. You've got to look at things by the case by case scenario. Are we what kind of education are black people getting? If education is a problem, okay, you may have to make some more efforts to educate yourself. You may not. You may have have a crappy school. You may have to educate yourself some other kind of way. I do that with my own kids. You may have to, jump on YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube that you want to learn. My sister jumped on YouTube and she was able to fix her automatic window on her van door that was not working. Um, Educate yourself.
Right.
And you know what? Even if all of that is true, so what? So what? So what? If those things are true, well, it's racism. Okay, well now what? What are you going to do? Yell and scream about it? Or are you going to educate yourself like plenty of other black people have done and create something that brings those things to you. Stop living in covetousness and looking at what everybody has and saying, I don't have it because of racism. Well, look at your situation. What decisions have you personally made? What decisions have, and by the way, especially in government, um, Black people are, when you have more of a chance. It's about connections, not race. And an unconnected white person doesn't stand a chance in government against a connected Black person. Just and I've watched it for 24 years, and I've seen how these things play out and work. And I was part of that whole racism thing, and I even had a lawsuit against my employer. And after years later, I looked at it again, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, it could have been racism, but maybe the person who I accused, he actually wanted me to do something that was illegal.
Hmm.
And I said no.
Okay.
I said no. And I'm like, it was probably more logical that he hated me for
Right.
that, because I refused to do something um, that he wanted me to
Right.
do. Um, so, so we really have to step back and say, uh, give people the benefit of the doubt. If it really is racism, then call it that. But ask yourself the questions first. Could there be any other reason?
Exactly.
You know, could there be any other reason? Um,
It's a good question.
and uh, everybody is not going to like you, but that's okay, because you may not like other
Right.
people. That's okay. We live in the United States, and because of that, not everyone is the same. It's not like when you go to other countries. I don't even know how they stand it. Everybody is the same. That would drive me crazy. But here, you get to walk out your door and see every kind of person that God created. Isn't That's
Yeah.
incredible?
That's
That's
true.
absolutely incredible. And the opportunities, they're there. You have to learn how to look for them. If I were to name the biggest problems that the Black community had, number one problem is we've left our faith. It's
Hmm.
strong, but it is not as strong as it used
It
to
was
be.
before.
Yes, that's number one. Number two is our family. Um, there needs to be the two parent, mother father home. The you know the the out of wedlock births in the Black community, 70 plus percent, 74 around there. Um, that is killing us. There are so many problems that stem from fatherlessness, and that is way bigger than anything with racism. We have, I mean, and of course that stems from our not adhering to our faith. That that is a way bigger problem than racism. By the time these poor young men get out into the world and have these problems or these so-called encounters with police or whatever, there was a whole bunch of things that were happening way before then that got them to the position where they had these problems with the law. Are there people who are profiling? Sure. But that profiling, you've got to blame the person who actually did it. And unfortunately, you look like them. You look like them.
Hmm.
And uh, we have to be honest with ourselves that we unfortunately disproportionately commit violent crimes. Whether that is, you can say that's due to racism or whatever, but I'm sorry if you're not gonna commit a murder or whatever because of racism unless you're killing the racist or what. I don't know what it is that you're doing, but if you're already not a murderer, um racism, somebody just not liking you because of this color of your skin, that's not going to turn you into one.
Hmm.
The problems that are that ultimately result in these issues are problems that we as the Black community can solve ourselves. We do not need white America. We do not need a politician. We do not need a so called Black leader. We don't need more money. We don't. We need to return to our faith, and we need to make sure that our children are being brought up in a two parent home.
Right.
And we need to educate ourselves about money, education in general, but particularly um, about money. Um, if you see a black person, a poor black person, and a poor white person, what they have in common is they either don't know or don't care about money. They don't know. They don't care. They're not learning. And again, you don't know something? Get on YouTube. Take the initiative. Take the initiative. If a black person says, I'm disenfranchised because of racism, okay, you've got this white guy in the same exact position you are. What's his excuse?
Right.
How'd he get there? You know, how'd he get there? And I'd love for us to stop blaming people and start taking more responsibility for our own situations. Because guess what? If I do something in my life, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or whatever, it's not because of racism. It's because of me. It's
Exactly.
because I did it.
I
I screwed up.
I like that you started to talk about that, because from my perspective as a kind of white person, even I realized not long ago that kind of like Americans, like white Americans, they not counted me as a white person just because I'm Russian
Mm,
immigrant. And I was shocked. I was like, okay, who am I right now if I'm not white? But,
mhm.
I can overcome this. I don't care if they
Right.
don't count me as
Right.
white. Their problem. And I know there's not
It is.
too much people who think in this way. Yeah, maybe some of the like people they too radical about that, right? But
Mhm.
any other people that understand that we all live in this world, no matter
Right.
where we come from. And the thing is,
We.
really, if I see in my life and I feel that it's something not enough for me, it's not my neighbor's fault. That's my fault,
No.
right? I supposed to,
Right.
honestly, looking around and just realized what I supposed to fix it. As you say,
Right.
maybe there's a question in my budget, right? Maybe I'm not smart
Right.
enough, to use my budget. Maybe I'm not smart enough how I, like use my power. Maybe I'm
Right.
supposed to change my job. Maybe I do that I'm
Right.
not supposed to do. There's many
Right.
reasons, how to fix the problems. But the thing
Right.
is, start with yourself.
Start with yourself. Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. Exactly. And if it's hard, there's they used to say, well, if as a black person you have to work twice as hard to go half as far, or something like that. I don't remember the exact words. Welcome to life. Things are hard, and um, we we're doing it. We can do it.
Right.
So what if it's hard? We can rise to the task. There are people who, in the 60s, when the civil rights movements and all that, they had to write their wills because they may not come back alive. There were black people who lost their lives. There were white people who lost their lives in
Exactly.
that fight too. In that fight too. So that was real racism. Nobody today is going through that. We're not going through that. Was real racism. These people literally did not know if today was the day they were going to live or die. Um, it's not like that now.
Right.
And as far as this reparations go, oh boy, that's a loaded one. I understand because the Japanese Americans, they did get reparations for being interned during World War II and
Uh-huh.
all of that. But we're talking about a much larger population. The country can't do it. It can't do it. Um, Even if it could do it, nobody alive now has been a slave or has ever owned one. So why my neighbor is white? Why am I going to knock on his door and say, guess what? You owe me. And Alex, you're not even from this country. You're supposed to pay? What about how do we determine who's supposed to get something? I could see if they ever declared reparations, every single white person should go and get a DNA test and see how much African blood they have so they can get a line and get a check too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And what about black people who owned other black people? Do they get reparations or do they pay them?
Haha. It's a good question.
No, no, no. We don't need reparations. We don't.
I agree with
And
you.
I hate this. If people feel that they should have reparations, let me. My word to them is this: if you can't make it in this country without reparations, you will not be able to make it with them because you're just not smart enough. Just not smart enough.
It's a challenge.
Welcome to life. Welcome to life. Can you name any people group on the face of the planet that has never been a slave to someone?
Exactly. That's true.
Can you name one? Can you and
It
if you
was
go back
different
further,
kind of slavery, but it was slavery.
even even slavery is slavery. Either you're free or you're not free. Either you can come and go or you can't. Either they own you or they don't. This whole idea of, well, it was worse than any other slavery. Well, wait a minute, really? Really? Actually speak to people who understand about their history of slavery. Would they say, well, you know what, we had it so much easier than you did? And I can't see that when I look at what the Jews went through. When every group has been a slave somewhere.
Oh yeah.
You're from Ukraine,
Belarus.
the Belarus. I'm sorry, Belarus. The gulags
Oh yeah.
in Russia. Those people are
Soviet
slaves.
Russia.
Soviet Russia. Those people are slaves. They're slaves.
Mm-hmm.
You really think that somehow their life is better?
Mm-mm. No way.
They don't care if you live or die. They'll just replace you with somebody else. I mean, really,
Exactly.
you really think that um I don't get it. No one else is saying, well, you owe me now. And neither should we. And if you go back further, what about when white people own black people owned white slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to pay them back?
No, no, that's
No.
ridiculous.
It's Human history is littered with examples of
Exactly.
man's inhumanity. And one of the reasons why Jesus said forgive one another, because he knew we'd screw up. He knew it. He came and he died because he knew we screw up. We do evil things.
Yes.
And we mistreat each other. And that's what we do to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Racism isn't doesn't exist because, oh, there's bad white people or out there. That's not the issue. The issue is we're sinful creatures.
Exactly.
That's what we do. We sin. That's what we do. So when you see, somebody who just doesn't like you because of the color of your skin,
Mm-hmm.
well, welcome to humanity. And it sucks.
Yeah,
It's bad. It's bad. It's
that's
bad.
right.
But we can conform to God's standard. Let's say you're a black person or a white person. You recognize, something. I'm a racist, because anybody can be a racist. It doesn't have to
Right.
be. God doesn't say it's okay for you because you're not in power, but it's not okay for you because you are. He doesn't do that. Racism is bad in God's eyes for everyone. So, and let's say that you have that problem. You can go to God and you can say, "Listen, this is what's in my heart. I'm bringing it to you because you're the only one who can fix it." And then God will give you an opportunity, you
Right.
know, to deal with that, to deal with that. But the problem isn't racism. The problem is our own sinful nature that we have to deal with, and we have to bring it to God and let God deal with it.
You know what?
And that's what we got.
And at this point, you remind me one of the things I just found on a Facebook, and I like it a lot. It was a testimony of the former lesbian young lady who became a Christian, and she said literally this thing. Many people try to excuse their sin by saying, I was born this way,
Mm-hmm.
which is why Jesus said, you must be born again.
Amen. Yeah.
Hallelujah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have a sinful nature.
Yes,
And
we.
there is our biggest issue. It's not a
Yeah.
racism, it's not a
No,
sexism, it's not even
no,
socialism or
no.
anything else. The
It's a sin
most
nature.
dangerous thing in this world is our sinful nature. And we're
Exactly.
supposed to dealing with that.
Yeah.
And I know today we're trying to say, "Oh, I'm not a religious person," like scientists saying this and that. But hey, many scientists, they're Christians. They
Yes, they
admit
are.
that God is exists. They believe
Yeah.
in God, and God helped them to break through in their science
Right.
to understand some of the the processing
Right.
of their scientific researching.
Experiments and things like that.
But
Yes.
the thing is, we're supposed to born again. There's something mystical, but it's a real thing.
Yeah.
We're different. We are um uh, came to this world with a sinful nature,
Yeah.
but God had a plan for us, and this
Yeah.
plan is to be born again, and
Right.
that's very very unique, and praise God for that. He
Mm-hmm.
not leave us alone, but he's
No.
watching over us because he's
Right.
care about us. He loves us so much. He not only gave Jesus on a cross, even we deserve that to be
Right.
there. But he
Yeah.
said, you're supposed to born again. Doesn't matter who you are, black
No.
or white or gay
Nope.
or lesbian, no
Right.
matter what you identify yourself right now, but you're supposed to born again. It means
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to transform your nature. I like what
Right.
you said.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the only thing that's going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Um, People say they don't believe in the Bible and Christianity
Mm-hmm.
and all that, but to me, when you look at the state of the world, it's the only thing that accurately describes what we are. and how we are. Um, Sinful. People like to think, oh, inside we're good. Oh, no, no, no. We are capable of the worst kind of atrocities imaginable. Um, there, but for the grace of God. Um, that's what we're capable. That's what the Bible says we are. And to be born again, you're supposed to take on the characteristics of Christ. That's what you're supposed. And this is an ongoing thing. This is it's constant, because you're never perfect.
Oh
You're
yeah.
never, and God knows. He sees you at this moment in time, and you think, okay, great, I'm doing well. I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. Well, God still sees something in you that he wants to transform. He hasn't shown it to you yet.
It's a life
You don't
process.
know about it. It's there, but he's still transforming you. That's why the blood of Christ is so incredible, because
Hallelujah.
it covers that. It covers that, and then when you start to realize, oh, wait a minute, Lord, all these things that you're showing me now, they were always there, but he's leading us. He's leading us gently. Those people who are having issues with other people racially, God has to deal with that too. God has to. That's all part of being born again. But if we're going to sit there and cast a stone, we better be very careful, because God sees our house too.
Oh yeah.
God sees our house too.
Always.
So if oh yeah. So if we're going to run around and jump on this racism bandwagon, which to me is extremely narcissistic, um, very very narcissistic. Classic narcissism. All the cases of uh, the government being the media, who powers that be being, trying to keep Black America from growing up, accepting responsibility, everything someone else's fault. Oh, it's because of my past. I mean, these are all excuses that narcissists make,
Mm-hmm.
and we're never allowed to progress, never allowed to move forward. It's like we have to be stuck in slavery, as if that was our only history. Like somehow we have no history beyond slavery at all. It's just unbelievable,
Right.
unbelievable. But unfortunately, we feed into it. We've got to be smart enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to be played like that. I'm not going to be played like that. Um, I realize that most people out there, they're not even thinking about me. They're not. They don't wake up and say, I want to go and hurt a Black person today. And if somebody does do that, they got some serious issues. But that is not the vast majority of people, um, at all. At all. Um, One person said to me that, when I asked, well, uh, how is racism affecting me? How is it? How is it? And she actually said to me, well, you're affected by it, you just don't know it. And I'm just like, if I don't know it, how bad can it be? You think that, the Russian, in the gulag, you think they don't know they're being oppressed? You think that the person who's being human trafficked, you think they don't know
Oh
they're
yeah.
being oppressed? I mean, you think that there's people out there that there's slavery in Africa now. You think those people don't know that they're oppressed, but yet racism is so bad. I don't know that I'm being oppressed. I mean, are you serious? This is the best they could come up with about racism in America. I've gotten a job. I was able to do everything that I want to do. I come and go as I please. Uh, you know, are there obstacles in life? Welcome to life. If you
Yeah.
expect to sail through life and actually think that all white people just sail through life, I haven't met any. I haven't met any that just sail through life with no obstacles. And if you have more obstacles, again, welcome to life. Use that thing that God put in you, that greatness that He put in you, and use it instead to build something rather than boo hooing about something that happened to people you don't even know who they are, most of them. You don't know. They're your ancestors, and they went through that, but they went through all that and they fought all that so that you could get to the point where we are now, where I say I can't name anything in this country I can't do just because I'm black. That's what they fought for. It's what they fought for. So
I
honor
agree with
them.
you.
Honor them. Do not elevate your experiences to what they had to go through, because you're insulting them when you
Hmm.
do that. Oh, racism, oh, racism. You can go vote. Oh my goodness, what they went
Right.
through. You know, you can do anything you want to do. So go out and do it. Stop
Yeah,
complaining.
yep, and
Stop
that's
complaining.
exactly
Go out and
right.
do it.
And you know what? I was growing up in Soviet Union, and of course, I never see racism like in the United States between black and white people. But at the same time, when we're talking about that oppression, that some kind of controlling, uh,
Mhm.
every nation went through that when
Everybody.
just socialism started in Soviet Union, and they tried to capture all the republics together, especially I would say Russia, right?
Mhm.
One by one, because it was 15 republics together. Maybe somebody don't know about that, but it
Mhm.
was 15 republics together. And start with Soviet Russia. They try to, like in different way, captured one by one. And of course, I was born on territory of Belarus. At that time, it was probably my relatives, who
Mhm.
was always between Poland and Russia. And finally,
Mhm.
until after 1939, the current territory of Belarus became a Soviet Union. And what happened? When you being a businessman, the Soviet Union came and said, "Now it's going to be ours. It now belongs
Yeah.
to everybody." And you was like, "Come on, really, people? I was working for years to like to feed my family, to
Right.
to being how to say that productively for my community." To be
Right.
helpful for my community. It's not only for
Mhm.
me. I gave a jobs to the people,
Right.
right?
Employment. Right.
I
Mhm.
was take
It's
care
important.
about the land, about the farm, like
Mhm.
animals, whatever. Now
Mhm.
somebody came to me and said, "No, it's not yours anymore. We took it over," and it's some kind of oppression. That's a ridiculous thing. And when we're
Mhm.
talking about reparations, right?
Oh,
What I supposed to do now? Go back to my government and
you
said,
can't.
"Hey,
Yeah.
you supposed to pay me
You
back
can't.
for my relatives?"
No.
Come on,
No.
we just
No. You
continue to
can't.
live with
Yeah.
what it is. We just passed it. We just put it in a history. That's okay. But
Mhm.
now we leave from the point what we are right now.
Yeah.
We're just moving
Yeah.
forward.
Reparations would bankrupt the country. Couldn't pay it. There's just no way, and you would be destroying the very thing that you're fighting for. Um, you had a lot and your experience is recent. We're not talking about what we went through. Um, that is what you call man's inhumanity to man. That's an example of it.
Hmm.
And we if you're old enough and you say you haven't been through it, live long enough, and you will. Most of the people in this country, in let's say who are my age or um, younger, um, it's a wonderful country. It's it has problems because humans are in it, and anything that has humans in it Um, there, there is a problem. There are going to be problems, but where else would you want to go? Belarus right now. I've spoken to your wife a little bit about it. She shows me pictures. They're fighting back against a
Dictator.
tyranny, and they are, and I think about that. I'm like, you know, would we be strong enough to go through that? Look, would we be strong enough to go through the things that the people went through in the protests in the 60s? Would we be able to do that? And I'm like, wow, I don't have to go through that.
And the thing is, Belarusian protests never
Hmm.
broken any store, never broken any bus, never get back to police to beat them like we seen last year during the BLM thing. It
Unbelievable.
was just insane. If you
Unbelievable.
protest against something, if you would like to protect your rights, just protect your rights. Why you destroying your country? I don't understand that. There's non-respect to anybody, wherever they are, white or black, owners of the businesses or anything. Like, if you want to protect it. But why are you supposed to crash something?
I don't know. And my mother has been told me that they've been doing that since the 60s. I really, if something happens and you get angry and it's racism, and then you tell the white people, okay, you did this to me, I'm gonna burn down my neighborhood. That'll show you, really. Real, I mean,
How the
think
hell?
about this, and then you wonder. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. There's professional protesters. A lot of them are white. For BLM,
Right.
Antifa, a lot of them are white. They're flown in, and they get the people in the neighborhood all riled up. And then, of course, the police come, and the people in the community get arrested. And then you have all these businesses that are destroyed. And then all of a sudden, businesses don't want to go into the community. They don't want to, even before. But these things confirm what they believe, that it's a risky investment. This, that, and the other. It's like, again, why are you doing that? Why are we doing that? Get back to your faith. The Bible
Amen.
says, be angry and sin not. And BLM, if you read their charters, it's the most anti-black organization, anti-Christ. They're promoting things that have hurt Black Americans, particularly the nuclear family. That's killing us. If you're promoting things that go against that, you're anti-black. You're not for Black people.
Right.
You're not doing anything for Black. You're basically exacerbating the problem. There are so many of us who are kept in that mindset that because racism exists, I'll never be able to do XYZ. Well, if you believe that, you won't. If you believe that you can't, um, you won't. You won't.
Right.
And just growing up, um, I believed a lot of that. I believed, the us and them. It wasn't in a bad way, but it was just, well, I'm Black, and this is my community and people, and everyone else is, they're just not a part of that. And it's not that I didn't like white people or anything like that. We just stick with your own, and that's it. And I met one of my friends in high school. He said, Terrell, you're eliminating half the population, more than half the population, you're just like they don't exist. And I thought about that, and I'm like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing
Hmm.
that? And then along with that came a lot of mistrust of white people. And looking back on it now, because I can look back on it now, and I realize how a lot of my thinking about white people prevented me from advancing in ways that I could have, just because I didn't trust these people. A lot of people who were trying to help me, trying to educate me about things that they knew about, but I just didn't trust them for no reason, just because somehow I had gotten that message and it hurt me. It didn't help. So I would love to see people stop doing that. Are there bad apples? Yeah, but there's a whole lot of good ones too.
Exactly.
Whole lot of good ones. Whole lot of good ones.
Exactly. And what I'm thinking right now, there's lots of sources. When we live in a country where it's supposed to be kind of like it's a big organization, country,
Mm,
right? It's a government, with a different kind of departments and everything that's supposed to work for people. But unfortunately, because of
mm,
sinful nature, like we already
mhm.
name it, we see some kind of different things that they try to use some of the definitions, some of the kind of problems, and not resolve them, but make them even
No,
worse. Try to,
right,
divide people, try to,
right.
direct people against each other.
Yeah.
The same thing with media, the same thing
Oh,
with, like different kind of community. Why I'm not supposed to love my black brother and sisters? Why? Who
right.
said to me that I'm not supposed to? You know, I remember
Yeah, they
one
do.
time when I was probably not the first time in a African American church, but it was my first experience.
Mhm.
Maybe second time, third time, and I was so excited. And you know what? I'm telling the truth. I was thinking, God, why you make me white? I don't want to be black. I want to be
It's
happy like
simple.
these people. I want to be just, moving around,
Yeah,
happy, smile all the time,
yeah.
it looks like your life as a celebration every single day, because in my Russian
It's a
community,
wonderful culture.
when you're happy, you strange. When you're happy, you looks weird, like, why you happy? What the point to be happy? The world is weird. The world is evil, and you are happy. Of, of course, I'm happy because I overcame my sinful nature.
Yeah,
Because now
yeah.
I'm born again. Now I'm a new person. I have a new life. People,
Mm-hmm.
hey, listen to me. There's absolutely different experience in life.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. That's why it doesn't matter who you are.
No.
You feel free and you feel welcome in a, black community when everybody on the same page. You all born again. You just worshiping the Lord. You just like happy because you know who you are right now and where you go,
Absolutely.
and that no matter if government or media or any other sources try to distract you, but you know who you are and what happened with you, and you understand your responsibility
Mm-hmm.
in front of any community. you know like your reaction, it's important. You're supposed to always think about, okay, if you say this, if you do this, how it's gonna, what happened, how it's gonna influence on the people. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's
great
that's
statements.
what that's what born again nature gives you. It gives you another opportunities. That's why I love what you say, that we're supposed to come back to faith, and faith, it restore your family
100%.
values, any kind of values that it was
Yeah.
in the past, and you a little bit forgot about it, but in reality that's what keeps you whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Abs- Absolutely. Absolutely. If you look at, I love to put on worship music from YouTube, and a lot of the ones where you see the crowd, and they show everybody worshiping together, you know, and everyone comes to this country, and their job is to contribute what they are known for and make the country a better place. Um, One country, one people, Americans. The powers that be, they don't like that. They hate Christianity because it is supposed to unify people. And a Christian can stand up and say, uh, you know what, I love you, and you're my brother, you're my sister. That's how we're supposed to call each other.
Amen.
They don't want that. They don't want that. They want us hating each other because they're antichrist. They want us bickering together uh, because they want to control us. They want us angry all of the time, us and them, because that is the only way they get to stay on top.
Hmm.
If we ever woke up and realized who the real enemy was, and the Bible tells us, the Bible's clear about all of this,
Amen.
and we put aside all that complaining about color people. If we ever really understood who the enemy was, they couldn't take over the country. The church is in a battle. Unfortunately, not all of us know it. The Bible is clear in our battle. That's our state. That is our a
Yep.
Christian state in a battle, and not all churches are they're not realizing that. And so they're actually feeding into this whole racism thing. Back in the 60s, the churches were working together to end real racism. Now, all we're doing is getting a bunch of people, first us, because they had to start somewhere. We're not special. They just picked us to start with because, we're emotional. We do things on emotional. Culturally speaking, we're very emotional, and we have this history here. So getting us all riled up, because God forbid we should ever wake up and say, you know what? There's no other country I'd rather be in. I have a black neighbor on one side and a white neighbor on another side. I have an old neighbor over there. We've got people, every kind of person. You want to imagine where else can you get that? Where
Hmm.
else can you get, you know? And Christians, we need to fight back more. We need to speak out against these people when they try to
Again, the
call us
evil.
haters. Yeah, say you know what, I love you. I love you so much. I am not going to affirm behavior that hurts you. I'm not going to do it because I love you.
Amen.
And that's not happening enough. It's interesting because my one of my daughters teachers, he said to her, what's the big deal about the church and homosexuality? And
Hmm.
he really didn't know. He really didn't know. But she was able to say, well, we believe in the natural design of the body, that God made our bodies for a purpose.
Amen.
And going against that purpose goes against God. Why? He made the rules. He made them. He made this world for a reason, to say different. And the terrible thing about it is, and the homosexual, the LGBTQ and all that, they're being played like black people are too, because the people in control, they don't like them either.
Yeah,
They
there's
don't
lots of
like them.
manipulations.
They actually hate them. But they don't realize it. They think, oh, finally justice, finally we're being heard. No, no, no. You are nothing more than a way to disrupt society. That's it. They want anarchy. They want to say up is down and down is up, like the Bible talks about. That is what they're trying to bring, and they'll use anybody. They'll use anybody
Yep.
who who they can use. But at the end of the day, everybody is going to have a boot stamping on their face for the rest of their lives. It doesn't really matter if you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're LGBT. They don't care. All
Oh
they
yeah.
care about is power. That's it. Because God forbid, if we should wake up, we'd realize that we actually don't need them. So they have to constantly create these quote unquote problems. Racism is one of them, so that they could quote unquote come in and solve it. But this whole equality thing, this whole equality thing, that that's just my phone alarm.
Oh,
People don't realize, black people don't realize that everybody who's on this social justice and this equality type thing, the powers that be, they're not interested in the kind of equality that you think. They're not interested in raising black people up. They couldn't care less about that. What they really want to do is bring everybody down, to a level where there's the, the proletariats, the serfs, and the bourgeoisie, the people at the top. That's
right,
it.
right.
Everybody is going to be down. The LGBT, they don't care about them, because when people are just trying to survive, they don't care if you feel as though your voice isn't being heard. So those voices aren't going to be heard either. It's just not everybody, because that's what happens in socialists and communists. Everyone is at the bottom except for those tiny people at the top, and that's what they're trying to bring to America. They don't care about social justice. That is just how they shut up the voices that they don't
Yep.
want to hear. They call you a hater. Social justice, social justice. Really? No. That's just a vehicle that they're using to control the people. And unfortunately, a lot of the youth, they don't see it.
Because people
They don't
not
see that
born
they're being
again,
manipulated.
they don't see that.
No. No, they don't see. They don't see. And if you're not born again, and if you're not careful, you want to hold on to that narcissism. You will not submit. You will not submit to God's ultimate plan or design for your life. You will believe whatever puts you at the top. So
Mm.
if it's LGBT, that puts power, or I've got power over you.
Right, right.
Whether black power, well, I've got power over you. You will run after that power. And that's what this is all about. It's about power. And the powers that be understand that, and they know how to put themselves at the top by pitting you against you and you against, we're all fighting, 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 fighting.
Right.
I'm like, okay, they're not doing that. They are completely unified in their quest to subjugate all of us. They're completely unified. But us, no. We're looking at, black people are looking at white people and saying, you're the enemy. But it's like, no, 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 my brothers and sisters. Those very same people that you're calling the enemy, who are actually large enough to stop all of this happening, from everyone else. No, they're not your enemy. They're the people who are going to keep you out of the socialism and communism that the powers that be are trying to bring here. And We don't study other countries. We don't look at Zimbabwe and North Korea and Cuba, former Soviet Union. We don't look at those places at all. So we don't really know. You know, a lot of young people, they think socialism is good. They haven't got a
Oh
clue.
yeah.
And you have you talk to anybody who's come out of that, not one person says it was good, unless, well, they're at the top, because that's all socialism is.
Right.
You know, that's all it is.
I agree with you, and I like what you said before that you know all countries, the whole world, I would say, they so aware of the church because
Yeah.
the real now we're talking about a real church
Real
because
church.
you
Mhm.
said that not all the churches understand the sense of the battle we are going through, the sense of the fight we are in, and that's really
Yeah.
true. But we are talking about the
Mhm.
real church, that it's always something unwelcome for every system, because every
Mhm.
country is a small system. Doesn't matter what kind of system in that: capitalism, socialism, communism, or monarchy, or whatever it
Mhm.
is, but it's a system. And system, just like you said, they running after the power. They
Yeah.
would like just to control the people, and they
Yeah.
bring all the food for people don't think. like like
No.
we provide
Yeah.
everything for you, don't think, we give you everything,
Right.
just relax. uh,
Hmm.
but the thing is
Yeah. A lot of people
here the
understand.
church, and they saying, hey people, there is something wrong in this system. We see some kind of evil,
Yeah.
we see some kind of unfair stuff, we see like
Hmm.
some unrighteous thing, and we
Hmm.
seen we see the sin. And we would
Hmm.
like to name the sin as a sin, no
Hmm.
matter what people think about it. People think, oh no, you're not
Right.
supposed to that radical about it, because we're already in
Right.
21st century. So what? The Bible
Hmm.
still the same, people. i'm s-
It is
I'm
the
sorry. If the
it still
same
applies.
God who created everything, He's watching over us. He gives us, the something to think, mind, right?
Hmm.
Like,
A
yeah,
mind.
He
Yeah.
gives us.
We have to use it though.
He gives us ability to do something, but He said, "Hey, if you're gonna do it this way, you're gonna be blessed." And you will
Right.
see the result of this. Everything is going to
Mhm.
be like milk and honey. But if you go in
Mhm.
this way, it's going to be cursed. And when you try to say, hey, people, maybe we're a little bit distracted from our way to a blessing, we're now going in a
Mhm.
way to curse. That's why that's
Mhm.
not a balance in the society. That's why we see lots of evil.
They don't like that.
They
Yeah.
try to say, no, it's a God's fault. If God is good,
Wow.
He's
Yeah.
supposed to do everything good. But you know what? God has His own responsibility, and He is faithful always. But from other
Mhm.
side of the
Yes.
covenant between God and the person or humanity, we have another responsibility from us as well. What
Mhm.
we do, to respond for God's faithfulness. People, there is a huge question. That's why when we not doing enough, how we can blame God?
Oh,
That He's
no,
not
it's never
doing
God's
His
fault.
part.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
it's never God's fault. It's never God's fault. When people talk about the goodness of God, but they never want to talk about the judgment or the righteousness of God. They never want to talk about how truly free we are to choose. And we're so free to choose, it's kind of scary, because you look at people and they do things, and you want to tell yourself, well, they don't know any better, blah blah blah. No, they do. Um, we choose to do things because we want to. The Bible talks about that. I had a,
Right.
it's, I think it's James, third chapter. I had a really hard time with that. Though those verses, you're led away by your own evil desires, and I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, we are. That's how we roll. That's human human nature, and we have to come to terms with that. We have to we have to be honest. And the church, like you said, um, we have to keep shouting that something is wrong, that something isn't right, um, that we are created for a purpose, um, and we have to tell people that, because if we don't, they're not going to know. They're not going to know. We're the only voice um, that can lead people to um, the standard that is God, the standard that is God. There are some other standards out there that are close, um, but not going to lead you all the way to the foot of the cross, where your sin can actually be dealt with in such a way that will allow you to be born again. That's where we want to be. I love the young woman who came out of lesbianism that you um, talked about, because that is revelation. Because most of us, we talk about being born again, we talk about it, Christians, but we don't really. I don't think we really understand it in the same way she understood it. For
Oh
her,
yeah.
it was personal, because it wasn't just, oh gee, I'm going to follow the rules now. No, that doesn't work.
Hmm.
You have to be born again to understand, you know what, I'm really a new creation. We all go through that. We can all go through that and experience that. That's what's going to beat this racism. That's what's going to beat socialism, which is antichrist. I mean, they come in, the church will have to go underground. It'll have to, because everything that the church says is against everything they believe.
Right.
I don't think we agree on anything. Um, and they redefine our words. For them, love means accepting everything a person wants to believe, and for us, love means seeking what's best for the other person. And so, they call us haters, because they simply don't understand our version of love, and they own the media and they put it out there, and they're really villainizing Christians openly. I've actually had to confront a teacher. Now that we had this remote learning, I was able to listen in on some classes, and I've confronted them about some of the things that they're teaching kids, and putting it into the context of their language, because they don't really understand how hypocritical this so-called inclusion and tolerance. They don't understand. They don't see their own hypocrisy.
Hmm.
They don't. So a lot of times, you have to point it out to them. If they say, well, there's a lot of hypocrites in the church, my response to is, yeah, the Bible says that that's what we are, and that's why we need Christ to come and save us, because we're
Amen.
sinners. When we sin, we're living out exactly what our ideology says that we are. We're sinners, and we need to repent, and we have that way. But when you're claiming to be tolerant, but I prove to you that you're not tolerant, what are you going to do about that?
Hmm.
You're not living up to your ideology. And I point that out, and a lot of times, they don't like it. They don't like it. In particular, there was this one conversation I had about white power, and this woman was saying, this teacher was saying how this white woman had told these black men in a park, I believe it was in New York, I can say whatever I want. about you, and the police will just believe me. And the teacher said, well, she was exercising her white power. Um, but I also brought up this case of this teenager. I was a teenager at the time. Tawana Brawley, she's a black girl who claimed that she had been raped by 7 white men, and it was, this big thing. It was a whole big thing, and nationwide, all the so-called black leaders, protesting the whole 9 yards. Well, turns out that never happened. She was a liar, and I said, well, the thing that both of these two women have in common is that they are both liars.
Right.
It isn't about black power, white power, and whatever. They're both liars. Okay, that's the problem. To say that, oh, she was exercising her white power and this is a problem. No, the problem isn't the white power. The problem is she's a liar. Okay, that's the problem. And then I asked too, well, 30 years ago, this black teenager said this about these white men. What power was she exercising when she got everybody all riled up? There's black power too. The question is, how do you use that power? If you're using that power to dominate and lie in order to get what you want, well, that's the problem. It isn't black or white. And we need to start seeing sin for what it is. Like you're saying, call sin sin. It's not a problem because you're black or white. It's a problem because you're a liar. And both women were liars.
Exactly, and that would how I would like to conclude this program. We
Mm-hmm.
started about racism, and yes, it is exist. Yes, some
Mm-hmm.
people so radical, and actually from both sides. It's not only
Yeah.
from white side or only from black side. It's
Yeah.
just about some people. It's not just a
Right.
common like issue, like all the white people they hate black people, or
No.
all the black people
I
hate
don't
white
think so.
people. Like it's just about some of the people, and we supposed to understand that and remember how we supposed to react back to this situation. But
Right.
the most important thing, we're supposed to remember, we have all the same opportunity, especially in this country. Every single day we're supposed to thank God that we live in the United States of America so far with
Yes.
what we have right now, because not in every country today the same level of
Opportunity.
freedom, the
Right.
same level of
Right.
wellness or whatever. And most important thing that we name today, because it's come from sinful nature,
Mm.
it means it's come from yourself. Check
Right.
yourself first before
Right.
name some of the problem that
Right.
distract you, or distract your community, or
Right. How'd
distract
I
your
get here?
society. Like
Yeah.
it starts from us people. That what we
Yes.
would like to understand. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be overwhelmed about something. Don't follow the crowd,
No,
because
don't.
that's not right.
Do
Crowd
some
might be
thinking for
wrong.
yourself.
You're supposed
Right.
to
Think
have
for
the cold
yourself.
mind, just to think to yourself, like, hey,
Right.
stop. Where are they going? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm going? Who am I? Where I'm stand? Like, and we believe with Terrell, with my sister in Christ Terrell, we believe that Bible gives the answers for that. Back
Yes,
to
it
faith,
does.
back to
Mm-hmm.
your roots, America. America
Mm-hmm.
started with Bible. America
Mm-hmm.
started with Word of God, with faith. That's
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Even somebody today try to change these facts. You can
Oh, I
do that.
know.
You can do that. It
Yeah.
was in a history, and you can change it. Just look across the United States.
They're
How many
trying.
churches? How many people who still believe? How many people still looking for the answers, because
Mm-hmm.
they're not in a physical area, they are in a
Right. They know
spiritual area.
something is missing.
And
Right.
only
They
when
know
we
it's
goes
missing.
deeper in a spiritual things, we find out those questions. That's why those young lady, and said that we supposed to born again, and we
Mm.
confirmed with Sister Terrell that we are supposed to be born again. We are born again. That's why we understand each other. That's why there's no problem
Right.
between I'm white, she's black, and
No
we
problems.
we just figure out everything how it should be because
Hmm.
we are born again, because we understand this difference between physical things and spiritual things. That's why people,
Yeah.
please be smart. Let God bless you so much. Don't be
Hmm.
too radical. Don't be too overwhelmed. And I would like you, Sister Terrell, just to like say the final word to the white community, to the black community, to the church.
Well, I'm saying to the black and the white community, don't be played. Don't let the powers that want to rob you of the freedom and your faith and everything else. Don't let them do it. Don't let them pit each other, yourselves against each other. For the black community, I'd say before you get angry about racism, and I had to do this myself, sit down for a minute and ask yourself, how did I get here? Could there be another reason? Could there be something else? White people. And when you want to get angry at what you see on the news, be whatever, look into your own heart. See if there's a problem there, be honest, bring it to God, let him deal with it. But don't get angry at what black people are doing. Get angry at the people who are playing black people. The 1%, the whatever you want to call them, the communists. Get angry at them because yeah, they're coming for black people first, but they're coming for you next. If you let it work, then and there's more of you guys. There's more of you guys than there are of us. Don't let it work. And everybody, get back to your faith. Get back to your faith. As Alex was saying, be born, be born again. Start seeing things the way they really are.
Amen.
And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sister Terrell. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. Uh, uh, we'll get back to you with the new topics that I believe it's going to be interesting for everybody. If you have some, exact topic you want to us to share with you, just like comment, share with us, and
Mhm.
like we're ready to bring the facts, to bring the truth, to set you free. And for today, we say God bless you and see you
God
next
bless
time.
you too.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.